Superheroes have been labeled as the modern equivalent of the Greek myths. Their stories have entranced audiences for decades and show no sign of slowing anytime soon. While there are plenty of these modern legends to pick from, one of the most famous is the caped crusader himself, Batman, which will be our main highlight for today's video. Created in 1939 by Bill Finger and Bob Kane, Batman has become one of the most well-known comic characters in mainstream pop culture, appearing in countless films, video games, comics, and television series. While fans have their own reasons as to why Batman has become so celebrated, one of the most mentioned is how the stories aren't afraid to go into dark areas. While it is not uncommon for the mainstream to showcase dark stories and events, Batman practically perfects this by having the beloved character go through some of the most brutal events ever in the DC Universe. Today, let's dive into the top 5 darkest Batman moments. Batman nearly beating the Joker to death. Over Batman's history, he's dealt with obstacles that challenged every aspect of his character. Whether it be a mental ordeal regarding his ability to overcome fear toxin, or a physical struggle against a rival like Bane, Batman has proven he's one of the strongest-willed heroes in the DC Universe. That said, he does have a limit, and it's one that has only been pushed by those who know him, like the Joker. But one encounter with this villain had the Dark Knight nearly break his one rule and kill the Joker in cold blood. The story follows a mystery with the villain known as
Hush, Batman. Hush.
taunting Batman as a being from his past and tormenting aspects of his life. Rather than do it alone, Hush did so by targeting friends and enemies like Superman and the Joker.
We need your help.
This extended to his childhood friend, Tommy Elliot, who had reunited with Bruce. That said, after his apparent murder, Batman was pushed over the edge and resolved to finally end the one who he thinks is the mastermind,
Joker.
At first, Catwoman tried to subdue him, knowing he would do the same for her. While she put up an effort, even with a gunshot wound, her claws were no match for Batman's drive as he used her wound against her to knock her out. Batman continued to beat the Joker to death, even after he pleaded his innocence.
I was in a basement until 5 minutes ago. I'm also looking for Harley. Have you seen him? Stop me if you've heard this one before. Two guys walk into a bar. I want you to break your code, but for something I actually did.
Ultimately, it was Jim Gordon, with a gun to Batman's head, who pulled him back from the edge. But it wasn't the gun that saved Batman, Jim's faith in him. Even at his most brutal state, it reminded the hero why he hadn't killed the Joker or any other villain sooner. That said, as this moment of clarity renewed Batman's faith, the Joker wasn't lying, as it was another elaborate plan by Hush to terrorize Batman inside and out. Batgirl's assault. One of the darkest Batman moments is when one of the Bat family members, Batgirl, also known as Barbara Gordon, falls into one of Joker's victims. Alan Moore and Bryan's release of The Killing Joke in 1988 and adapted to film in 2016 had Joker do something most people just didn't expect: the crippling and violation of Batgirl.
To prove a point. Here's to crime.
The story starts as Batman investigates a murder scene with Detective Harvey Bullock and concludes that the Joker, currently held at Arkham Asylum, might be behind the crime. He goes to Arkham to talk to him, only to discover that he has escaped and put a decoy in his place.
Where is he? Do you realize what you've set free? What it's capable of? Do you have any idea?
Joker then attacks Barbara and her father, Commissioner James Gordon. He begins by shooting Barbara in her stomach, paralyzing her from the waist down.
Barbara!
I wouldn't worry yet if I were you.
The scene alone is so sudden, cold, and savage.
I mean, there's a hole in the jacket, and the spine appears to be damaged.
Joker then kidnaps them both to mentally break Commissioner Gordon. In an abandoned amusement park, Joker strips him naked and subjects him to torture,
Wait. Up! Stop!
including showing him photos he took of Barbara, naked and in pain.
Barbara!
If you hurt inside, get certified. And if life should treat you bad, don't get even. Get mad.
Batman finds and saves Gordon, while the Joker flees.
Jim.
Despite his ordeal, Gordon remains sane and demands that Batman capture the Joker by the book.
Go after him. I want him brought in. And I want it done by the book.
In the end, the story would eventually turn the newly wheelchair-bound Barbara Gordon into the fan-favorite Oracle, who aided the Dark Knight with her computer expertise, which provided Batman with a constant stream of information in the field to aid his battle against crime.
Right then, back to work.
Jason Todd's death. A Death in the Family is a landmark DC Comics storyline that took place in Batman number 426 to 429 by Jim Starlin and Jim Aparo. The story is notable not only for the Joker brutally beating Robin,
Forehand.
but leaving the boy's fate in the hands of fans via a call-in contest. With only a slim margin toward yes, voters chose to let Jason Todd die, and the event would cast a dark shadow over the entire Bat family for years to come. Though Jason did come back to the land of the living, he would be forced to face his past in stories like the 2010 animated film Batman Under the Red Hood.
He returned to this world, but returned damaged.
The DC Black Label series involves Red Hood and Batgirl helping Batman investigate a curious murder case. The bodies lead them to discover multiple sets of Jokers, one of which appears to be the Joker that killed Todd years ago. The brutal torture and death of the boy Wonder had a profound effect on the history of Batman. Bruce went to a dark place, forever regarding Jason's murder as his greatest failure.
We save lives every day. Strangers. And there's always enough time. But you already know how I failed to save Jason from this life.
And for years refused to allow another Robin to take his place. And despite how heinous the storyline is, Joker's cruel mockery makes it even worse, reminding readers and viewers how young Jason was. Instead of being placed in a complex death trap or being captured by cartoonish henchmen, an innocent teenager was viciously beaten, with only pitiful words to try and save himself. The Death in the Family arc took a bold step for comics and animated films at large, showing that even beloved heroes can't always avoid the worst endings. Tim Drake, Robin, kills then becomes the Joker.
My God.
Oh, I never get tired of that.
No matter what universe he's in, there is no line the Joker won't cross. In the animated film Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, the new Batman of 2040 learns that before Bruce Wayne retired and became further isolated from those around him, he and Tim Drake had a final bout with Joker. After Tim went missing for 3 weeks, Batman discovered him at the abandoned Arkham Asylum, where it turned out that the Joker tortured him for information and brainwashed him into being a mini Joker. As shown in a flashback, the deeply disturbed teenager turned on the Joker and seemingly killed him once and for all, forever traumatizing Tim and forcing him to retire.
Do it! That's not funny. That's not.
But Tim's story was far from over. Just when it seemed that Joker had survived his apparent death, it's then revealed that the Clown Prince of Crime and Tim Drake are one and the same.
Drake?
While Tim was the Joker's captive, the villain encoded his DNA with experimental technology that could override Tim's body and mind with his physical and mental attributes. This meant that Joker not only managed to survive his death, but also added insult to vast psychic injury to Batman, on top of it making the scene one of the darkest and most startling twists in DC. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to keep track of our latest videos. And finally, for the top one on our list, Bruce Wayne's death. When Barry Allen decides to save his mother from the hands of his nemesis Eobard, his one act of heroism ripples through the timeline and everything changes. The Flashpoint event begins, and the only way for Barry Allen to restore the timeline is with Batman's help. Among the many dark changes caused by the Flash during Flashpoint, one of the most tragic is the origin of Flashpoint Batman. Every Batman fan knows the story of how Bruce's parents were killed in Crime Alley. But in Flashpoint, Bruce is the one who ends up getting killed. In his rage, Thomas Wayne beats his son's killer to a bloody pulp. It also causes Martha to suffer a mental breakdown, becoming this universe's Joker. Losing a child is truly horrendous, and seeing Martha make her Joker smile out of Bruce's blood in the animated movie is incredibly unsettling. From that moment on, Thomas became his timeline's Batman. However, Thomas doesn't share his son's moral code, and thus becomes a more lethal version of Batman who's willing to kill.
Wouldn't do you any good, Bats. He's probably already dead.
Then so are you.
Thomas Wayne still decided to help the Flash get home. He believes that helping the Flash will reset the timeline and erase his world completely. Meanwhile, he had also promised his wife, the Joker, to do everything he could to bring back Bruce, which they succeeded. Meanwhile, he sent off the Flash with a letter to deliver to his son Bruce. Do you agree with our picks? Do you have a favorite hero that you want to be featured next? Let us know in the comments. Also, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, H.E.R.O.V.E.R.S.E, where we highlight your favorite, iconic, and legendary superheroes.